Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt, and you are watching the first of a handful of sessions wherein I will be running some intrepid players through Sewers Under Sandwall, which is an adventure module that we just released, absolutetabletop.com. It's a module that I've been working on for many, many years, but only just now sort of came to fruition and got finished and fleshed out. And I'm really excited to be running this game. This is something that has been near and dear to my heart and at the forefront of my mind for a very long time. And I couldn't have asked for four better players to run through this little dungeon delve with me. So I imagine it'll run for 2, maybe 3 sessions total. The sessions will be on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So right now, this is the time that it's going to be happening. So before we get into the adventure, though, I'm going to go ahead and let the players introduce themselves, and we're going to go ahead and start with Jake from Mini Terrain Domain because he is going to talk about this awesome opportunity that you can take part in right now, right this instant. So I'm going to let him talk about that first.
Thanks, Matt. As Matt said, I am Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. Dungeon crafting is my thing. I make dungeon terrain over on my channel, and I show you how you can do it on the cheap. I got really excited about Sewers Under Sandwall when I saw the first teaser for it and said, I got to craft something for this. And I thought, why not make something cool to help promote the Sewers Under Sandwall and give you guys, the audience, a chance to win it. So I spent about 35 hours building this terrain piece, which you can see a lot more detail of it on Mini Terrain Domain YouTube channel, and I believe Matt put the link down in the description where you can go enter that contest. You will also have a chance to win 2 custom painted Sewer Shark minis from Reaper Bones that I've painted, as well as Matt and the rest of the guys over at Absolute Tabletop have so generously donated a, I forget what the name of the shirt is, Matt. The Sewers.
It's the Tales from the Sewers t-shirt.
Tales from the Sewers, yes. Yeah. Tales from the Sewers t-shirt and a digital PDF of Sewers Under Sandwall. All that is the grand prize. They've also kicked in 2 extra t-shirts and 2 extra PDFs for a first runner-up and a second runner-up. So click the link down below, head over to Mini Terrain Domain on YouTube, youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, and you can enter that contest. All you have to do is tell me what magic item you would expect to find in the sewer. The contest ends at 11:59 on Friday, April 15th. That's 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And a huge shout-out and a huge thank you to everyone over at Absolute Tabletop for giving me this opportunity and providing such wonderful prizes to complement the terrain pieces.
Absolutely, man. I'm bummed that I can't win that terrain piece because I'm just like, oh, it's so beautiful and it's just even more awesome than I was anticipating. So definitely enter the contest if you are eligible, if you're not a member of Absolute Tabletop. All right, next up, we have Carl from D20+1. Carl, go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk about your channel a little bit if you want to.
All right. Well, I don't have nearly as much to say, and I sadly didn't build any amazing props for this for this event. But yes, I do have the channel D20+1. It's been on hiatus for a little while because of technical issues and the holidays and all that and the other. But I do have some upcoming content planned, which should be coming down the pipe pretty soon. I'm taking a page from the Tim and James Carney book, and I'm rebooting. So get ready for that. Other than that, that's about all I have to say. I'm super excited. I feel like the odd one out because all these guys are super awesome.
Well, you're super awesome too, Carl. Don't sell yourself short, man. All right, next up is my roll up and die cohort. Alex, go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk about your channel a little bit if you'd like.
Sure enough. Yeah, as you mentioned, we co-host Roll Up and Die with Michael Barker, and That's what I'm really excited about. My channel is Captain Gothnog on YouTube. I haven't done any really new content lately except for live play stuff, but hopefully get back into that soon. And I also publish role-playing material online at Drive-Thru RPG as Critical Hit Publishing.
Yeah, definitely pick up the new Cinematic Environs books. Those are awesome that Alex has been doing with DBJ. I've really been enjoying those. So
yeah,
all right.
I love the idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've gotten so much use out of those. All right, last but certainly not least, we have Ben. Ben, go ahead and introduce yourself if you would, please.
My name is Ben. I don't have any YouTube channels or anything, but I have very much enjoyed always watching Matt's games and listening to Roll Up and Die in particular, and watching some of Jacob's videos on building stuff. So, I'm a big fan. Looking forward to playing this game. I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Okay. So, we are going to go ahead and get started now. Again, we are playing Sewers Under Sandwall Adventure Module. If you're interested in picking up the Adventure Module, if you're watching this game and it's at some point you go, that's really cool, I want to run this for my players, there's a link down in the description where you can go and get the supplement. I think it's still $1. I think we extended the $1 sale through tonight. So if you get the chance, it's only $1 right now. Go to absolutetabletop.com and check it out. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and get started. As you travel across the scrub land, this sort of grassy plain that you've been walking across for several days at this point, the sharp tinge of salt hits your nostrils, and soon afterwards, your ears are filled with the crashing of waves, and you can feel a fine mist on the air sort of hitting your face, collecting in your facial hair, and you know that you are approaching the coast. As you scale this final hill, weary, your legs barely moving beneath you, you see a small cluster of buildings below, surrounded by a low sandstone wall. Finally, you have reached your destination, and the village of Sandwall lies before you. There are faint wisps of smoke rising from some of the chimney stacks. The buildings are simple, mostly built from sandstone and driftwood. There's nothing extravagant, nothing fancy about this place. It's just simple, rustic, but it's clean. It's clean and it's homey. Or rather, it would be homey if there was any sound at all emanating from this place. It's eerily still and quiet. There are very few people moving inside the village. You see a few people here and there moving down the street, but you don't see anyone out on the bay. You don't see anyone with nets or poles or spears. If this is a fishing village, there's no one doing any fishing. And you know that maybe some of these rumors that you've been hearing about the village of Sandwall, well, maybe they have a little bit of credence to them. Benson, as you crest this final hill, please describe what you look like and what your reaction is to seeing the quiet little village of Sandwall.
Benson is a tallish man in chainmail. It's older chainmail. It's has a few places where it's clearly been repaired a dozen times. His tabard is similarly kind of threadbare, but but sufficient. He has a sword on his side that is a it looks like some sort of short sword, but the pommel can be seen, which is a black boar's head. He holds himself, fairly upright, and kind of climbs down off the horse and looks towards it, kind of appraisingly, and it's not what he expected. He's seeing no one there, seeing no sign of the life you'd expect in a town like this, and it's he's unsettled for the first time.
Gabriel, what about you? As you crest this final hill and you see your companion Benson hop off of his horse, what do you look like, and what is your reaction to seeing the village before you?
Gabriel is an older gentleman, a bit, perhaps a bit, looking a bit frayed around the edges in his beard and hair. He wears a pair of delicate optics upon his hawkish nose, and he is dressed in a patchwork robe, similar to what you would expect a wizard. He almost looks like the prototypical wizard, with a long, slender staff and a ornate book slung over his shoulder and clasped shut. But his patchwork his patchwork robe appears to the patches aren't making reparations, but they appear to represent many different symbols. It's just covered front to back. There's places where some of these have been torn off, but there's symbols of doors and insignias of rope and lanterns and daggers and things like that. It's pretty arranged in no particular order. Upon his face, as he looks around, Gabriel is taking in these peculiar surroundings. The lack of any fishing activity in this fishing village. But he seems to almost be containing a giddiness, as if he's excited by this new mystery. And he quickly opens up his book at his side, just kind of slings it around, and begins looking around, scribbling, perhaps sketching. Oh, yes, and kind of muttering to himself.
Philip, otherwise known as the Han, you see your companion Benson hop off his horse, and you see your companion Gabriel looking at the village inquisitively and starts jotting down notes in that blasted book of his. What do you look like, and how do you react seeing this village?
So Philip, he's not a real tall guy, about 5'6", lightly built. He's dressed in what would be last year's latest fashions, but they're looking a little old, a little stained. You can see, like, on his fingers, there's marks where there used to be rings. He's got pierced ears, but there's no earrings in the ears or anything like that. His shoes, again, when they were new, were the most expensive probably you could buy. But now they're dirty and worn and worn through the sole in places. He just looks pretty down on his luck, I guess, for the most part. And he comes hopping up over the hill, just panting and complaining about feet and his back and how horrible this trip has been. Looks down at the village and has this kind of look of disdain in his eyes. Well, I suppose we've finally made it. Whatever this place is. I guess we ought to be on with it. And, just kind of looks down the hill, and that's it.
And finally, Brandon, you see your companions before you, and Philip says, we best be on with it then. what do you look like, and how do you react to this?
You would see a kind of a short, young, not even old enough to really be called a man. What you would definitely at first glance think of as a vagrant, or to use a more modern term, a punk. He's got a wild mohawk that sticks straight up, and it's bright at this moment, bright pink, and he's got these tattoos of just the most bizarre things etched into his skin, and he's wearing this kind of roughshod leather vest over his clothing, and you see him reach into his vest pocket and pull out a paper that's been folded 1,000 times and crumbled and stained, and he reads it once more and looks at the city, puts the paper away, and reaches into another pocket and pulls out a small cigar, half smoked, lights it up, takes a long drag, lets the smoke just billow where it pleases. It kind of wafts over Benson, and then he seems to almost be intentionally directing it towards him, and he drops it and stamps it out, looks down at the village, and more than anything, the sunlight is bothering him, the air. He's not at home up here. It's on the surface. It's not what he's used to. He's more used to being underground, making his legitimate business transactions. So he's generally just kind of not disconcerted by the quiet, but looks almost a little bit annoyed.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite what you were expecting. But as you're all kind of standing there taking in the sights and the smells of this coastline, and you see, the Bleakwater Bay, and you see this little village with its sandstone wall and its little hovels, you hear some raised voices. And you're a little bit too far away to catch any specific words, but you can see that the voices are coming from two figures standing outside of the main gate, sort of set into the sandstone wall. And you see that one of the voices is coming from a rather tall human man. And he's sort of gesturing, and you can see he's holding a spear, and you see him just kind of give a shrug. And the woman he's talking to, who is very short, you immediately recognize her as a halfling. She kind of slumps her shoulders, says a few more words, and then starts moving off, patting her donkey on the rump, and the donkey starts pulling this rickety old cart down the road, sort of in your direction.
All right, so I just take the lead of my horse. I shake my cowl back so you can see the my shaved head and just a couple days growth of beard. Doesn't seem to care as much about that, and I start down the hill toward the halfling, leading the horse.
Okay, do the rest of you follow?
Yes, Gabriel would follow very closely. He's very interested, still kind of scribbling in his notebook, maybe casting a couple glances over his shoulder at the village, and then trotting along behind Benson.
Yeah, Philip would also follow. He'd kind of sigh dejectedly and start limping along after Benson as well.
And I imagine Brandon would kind of stare at the town a little bit longer, kind of scowl at the water, at the ocean, and finally make his way to the back of the pack.
Okay, so the four of you kind of go down this sort of rough road towards the village, and eventually you sort of meet halfway with this halfling woman, and you can see that she looks pretty capable. She has some muscles in her arms. She's carrying a well-worn short sword at her side, and she's just sort of leading this donkey, which is pulling this sort of well-worn wooden cart. And the cart is piled with these really nicely organized parcels, and a couple of small, short barrels. And her hair is kind of tied up into this, messy, haphazard bun. And as you get within earshot of her, she kind of raises her hand in greeting, and says, "No use, gents. I'm afraid Sandwall is closed to visitors."
I step forward. Indeed, ma'am. We're headed there, obviously. What seems to have happened? I'm Constable Cooper, by the way.
Constable? Oh, you're from the city then?
Indeed.
Well, I'm Cordell, the merchant, and I didn't get much information from the fishy-smelling god over there, but he told me that there's some sort of sickness overtaking the town and that no one is allowed in or out at this point for fear of spreading whatever's going on in there. I've come to Sandwall many times before, and I've never had issues getting entrance.
Well, we'll have to see about that then. Thank you for your time.
Of course.
He just turns away.
She kind of...
Professionally.
She kind of... Oh, well, actually, you're here now, and, I wasn't able to hawk any of my wares, obviously. Maybe you four would be interested in spending some of your hard-earned silver coins on my fine textiles and dyes, straight from Strawford, the finest in the land.
I just kind of raise an eyebrow and look down at the things, and I just shake my head slightly as I start walking toward the city.
Very well, very well.
Philip looks at all the fancily, well-made textiles and kind of rifles through them a little bit and sighs discontentedly and opens up his purse and kind of pokes around, closes his purse and just shakes his head at her and follows after Benson.
With each person that passes her, her shoulders kind of slump a little bit lower. She looks hopefully to Brandon and Gabriel.
And Brandon would kind of peek his head into the cart, and he would in a loud whisper be like, "Hey, that's a pretty good cover you got there. What are your real wares?" And I wink like super emphatically.
She says, "Excuse me, I am a legitimate businesswoman trying to ply a fair trade. But some of the ingredients I use for my dyes aren't strictly mundane, if that's what you're getting at."
I thought as much. Have you anything of interest to a person such as myself?
Well, the beets that I use in my purple dye, well, they have some interesting qualities if you eat them raw. Some say similar to a healing draft. Interested in buying some?
Well, if the price is fair.
Well, you're in luck, because I'm just trying to make enough money to get back to the city at this point. I'll sell you these beets at 20 gold apiece. You have to understand they're quite rare and quite potent.
Let's see. Would I be able to make maybe like a nature check to see if I know anything about this?
Yeah, sure. Either a nature or an arcana check would certainly work.
Cool. Either way, I probably don't know much. 16.
16? Okay, yeah. You know that in this area, there are these certain beets, Dernish beets, that have this really vibrant purple color that have some magical qualities about them. They're often fetch a high price because of all the magic users in the area, because of the Arcanus Collegium in Dern. They're used in potions and things like that. And if you eat them raw, they probably have some pretty potent effects as well.
So, that going through my mind, I'm going to go for the classic salesman negotiation tactic. Saying 20 gold. Come on, these are worth 10 tops.
Go ahead and give me a persuade check if you would.
Oh, okay. No problem. And that is a 13.
She looks at you, looks back to the village, looks at you, looks at the cart. 15 apiece. Final offer.
Then I would take my hand out and take my coin purse and pour it out and show her that I've only got 15 coins. I would say, you could keep the change if it was a little bit cheaper, but 15 is fair enough.
She takes the coins and she hands you what looks like a beet. It's got a green frond coming out of it. It's kind of heart-shaped. It's this vibrant purple color. It kind of has a dirty, kind of brownish exterior to it, though. And she just kind of hands it over to you and says, they're a bit bitter, but I promise you, you won't be disappointed with the effects. Give it a nibble whenever you're feeling a little bit under the weather.
All right. And again, I would kind of open my jacket pocket and stick it into one of the... You would see probably about 20 pockets patchworked into it. Say, now, my fine fellow travelers, don't any of you want in on this? I mean, come on. These beets are extremely rare. And I give her kind of a wink, like, yeah.
Just how many of these beets do you have?
Well, I had 6, now I have 5.
I dare say beets are one of the worst root vegetables the gods placed upon this earth. But now magical beets, that's another thing altogether. How much for the lot?
For all 5. I'd give you all 5 for 50 gold.
Gabriel would kind of look over at Brandon with almost a questioning look, like, well, does that sound like a good deal? And then he's going to reach he turns slightly away, and he's kind of reaches over toward his pocket and grabs at one of the patches on his robe, and you might hear just a little as he pulls this patch off, and when he brings his hand forward, he is holding a coin purse, and he gives it a jingle, and he counts out carefully 50 gold pieces, and then hands them over to Cordell.
She excitedly takes the coins, reaches into the cart, and just hands you the whole barrel containing 5 of these beets, and says, "Pleasure doing business with you."
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I wish you gentlemen luck in Sandwall. I hope you have, well, a better time getting inside than I did. And she would pat her donkey on the backside and continue walking down the road away from the village of Sandwall.
I kind of talk over my shoulder to the other two. I say, I've seen scams like that before. Chances are, if you eat those, you'll be blowing your guts out your backside by the end of the day. I wouldn't trust them.
I take it you don't want any then.
No, appreciate it.
I wasn't going to eat it. I was going to sell it to someone else for 25 gold. Amateurs.
Sorry, sir. Did you say you were willingly going to sell a toxic product to someone on the street?
I pretend to be mute for the moment. Oh, sorry. It comes and goes. The voice, it's it's an affliction. Runs in the family. Terrible curse.
Thought not. And I turn my back to him and I start pulling the horse again toward the gate.
So, if you continue down the road towards the village of Sandwall, the sandstone wall rises up to meet you, and you see the road sort of terminates at this gate, just a simple sort of ovoid gate with a wooden door set into it. And standing in front of this gate is a man, and you can see that he has these really fine scars all over his arm, most likely from fish hooks, and he kind of leans on this three-pronged fishing spear, definitely not meant for combat, but just for prodding fish. And he looks at you with a lazy eye, kind of looking in the other direction, and he says, "All right, that's far enough. What business have you in Sandwall?"
So my name is Constable Cooper from the city of Dern. I'm here to see what's going on. You do still answer to Dern, do you not?
Well, I think so. That's well, I answer to the mayor, but I think the mayor.
Well, I tell you what.
answers
Why
to
don't you go get someone who's in charge and come talk to me?
Oh, I'm in charge of the gate. I can talk to you. You say you were a constable,
Indeed.
a lawman.
I hold up a finger, and I reach into this pouch on my side, and I rifle through some papers, and I bring up a tight little scroll that I give towards him. My credentials, sir. You're right to check.
He takes the scroll and unrolls it, and he looks at it, but you can tell he's not reading it. He's just kind of going, yeah, right. Seems everything's in order.
Of course it is.
And he hands it back.
Seems slightly insulted by that. Of course it is. And I tuck it back in.
I apologize, but you have to understand, a village is in it's in distress at the moment, and we have to be careful about who we let in and who we will let out. But if you're here to help, well, I think we could use it.
Good. Then where can I speak to your mayor?
Well, the mayor's shut in his house, I think. He's either there or a hardy harpoon.
Very good. Thank you. I'm sorry, your name is?
Wint, sir.
Thank you.
And he would turn around and open the gate. It swings open. And you see the town sort of open before you. And he says, "Don't make me sorry I let you all in here."
I just keep walking.
Philip says, "I'm already sorry you let me in here."
And you would see him kind of squint as he's trying to figure out what you just said, trying to figure out if he's been insulted or not. And then he would sort of give up a few seconds into that. And he sort of nods to each of you as you enter the gate.
And I'd like to imagine that on my way in, being the last one to go in, I would kind of whisper, "Hey, And I pull out the beet and I go, this right here, it cures the eye thing. But I'd like to imagine, correct me if you don't want to do this, Benson, but I'd like to imagine that you would come and like pull me by my ear.
Yeah, I pull you, but just with a glance. Like, I do this kind of like glance over my shoulders, and just like the corner of my eye catches you, and you feel it sort of pulling on you.
Rain check then.
And as you say, the eye thing, and as you're getting pulled away, he would go, "What eye thing?" And just kind of shrug and go back to guarding the gate. So the two places that Wint mentioned to you were the mayor's house, which is fairly easy to spot, and also the Hardy Harpoon. But so as you enter Sandwall, you definitely smell fish. You smell sea life. You know that Bleakwater Bay is home to cods, crab, all sorts of things like that. Most of the seafood eaten in this region is pulled out of Bleakwater Bay, and Sandwall smells heavily of it. The streets, though, are empty, where there would normally be market stalls and carts, people selling different types of fish and shellfish. It's empty, and just a few people kind of wander here and there. The town is just eerily quiet, and there's an overall feeling of foreboding. Just a palpable sort of dread and sadness that has overtaken this village. You imagine that if it was full and it was bustling, that it might actually be a fairly inviting place. It might be somewhat beautiful. But right now, it's just giving all of you this very eerie feeling, for sure.
I dare say, Constable, I know you're eager to go speak to the mayor, but may I suggest that it would perhaps be easier to speak with the mayor should we, wet our whistles, as it were. Perhaps a nice elvish wine or a hearty dwarven ale. And I'm sure they've got all manner of variety of seafood for us to eat upon. What say you? I'll take out my change or coin purse and jiggle it. It's on me, of course.
I say, well, as a matter of fact, that was my thought as well, though for probably different reasons. The tavern is usually the hub of all information in a town or a city. It's where I'd go first.
Well, yes, of course. That's exactly what I would suggest.
Of course.
And we'll eat and drink while we're there.
I wouldn't say no. So yeah, so we'll head for the what was it again? The harpoon?
The Hardy Harpoon.
Hardy. All right.
Yeah, and the you sort of see it as you enter the village, and you're sort of standing sort of in the square of the village. You can see this sign hanging over this kind of small circular building, and the sign doesn't have any writing on it, but it has sort of crudely drawn across it a harpoon, and you can hear some kind of heavy snoring coming from inside the tavern. The walls are not solid at all. There's kind of holes here and there, and you can hear somebody snoring from inside of it. As you enter, the boards under your feet sort of creak. There's lots of tables and chairs in here. It seems like this would probably be the hub of the town, like you were mentioning, Benson, if it weren't for the fact that there are very few people in here. You see 3 people. The first is an elven bartender that is sleeping on the bar. He's sort of curled up, almost in a fetal position, sleeping soundly with his hand under his head, just snoring away on top of the bar. You can see he's wearing an apron, and there's a dirty rag hanging out of his pocket. There's also a dwarven man sort of dressed in kind of moth-eaten fineries, kind of sitting in one corner, nursing a tankard. And finally, there's another elven man seated in the other corner, and he has nothing in front of him, but he's kind of looking at a map, and you see his head is shaved bald, and he's wearing well-worn armor, and he has a bow at his back. But other than the elven bartender, this elf sitting in the corner, and a dwarf sitting in another corner nursing a drink, you don't see anyone in here. It's dim, and it's dark, and it's lonely.
I point to an empty table and start over to it. The animals are just tied up outside, I guess I'll go up to the bar, and I'll just kind of like give it a good thump, boom, 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 see if it wakes the sleeping elf at all.
When you thump the bar, the elf kind of jolts awake. Oh. And he kind of lifts himself up, bleary-eyed, rubbing at his eyes. Oh. And he looks at you, Benson, and there's a couple moments. Then as he realizes he doesn't recognize you, he says, "Oh, so sorry. I was not expecting any new customers today." And he hops down to the other side of the bar. "So sorry. What can I get you?"
Well, I'm Constable Cooper. That's my party over there in the corner. We could use some food, some drinks. Probably water would be sufficient.
Elvish wine!
Well, I'm afraid you gentlemen have caught us at a bad time. I can offer you what we have, but well, it's not much. We have some canned food, pickled fish. We have some Dernish white wine. Some of the swill left over from the last batch of saltwater stout. That's about it. And no water, I'm afraid.
Well, bring what you have to the table, and bring yourself as well.
Of course, yes. Right away. And he starts busying himself behind the counter.
I'm assuming the rest of them probably heard that it's in the quiet of this place, so I just sort of wander over to the table and just fold my arms and look down, thinking at the wood. What are your impressions? I kind of look around at the other three.
Something has definitely got them bothered. They're keeping people out, not expecting visitors. They turned away a merchant at the gate, and yet they're short on supplies. Curious.
Well, one thing for sure, we need answers.
Well, we can rule out a siege, at least. I didn't see any siege engines, did you?
No.
Well, a surface siege, anyway.
As you all are sitting there, the dwarf approaches you, and he has kind of shoulder-length hair and a beard that's nothing magnificent by dwarven standards, and he's wearing, as I said, sort of moth-eaten fineries, clothes that were probably at one time very nice, but have fallen into disrepair and have just been sort of torn to shreds just by wearing them too long. But he approaches and removes this hat that he's wearing with a feather in it and kind of puts the hat to his chest, kind of inclines his head as he approaches the table, looking at you four, and says, "Would you all care for a story? I am a teller of tales, a bard, if you will."
Oh, I could use a good lullaby with that voice of yours. And I'm going to stretch out. Go on, then.
And he kind of sets his hat on the table for donations as he's telling the story and says, "It has been some time since we have had any visitors here in Sandwall. It is a joy to tell you my stories." And the way he's speaking, you've never heard a bard talk like this. He has no inflection, no weight to any of his words. And it's hard to pay attention to him as you're listening, but he starts telling this story. "A few nights ago, something strange happened in Sandwall. They say a creature came over the wall. Something that has never been seen before." And as your eyes start to droop, "It was some great abomination. Some huge monstrosity, they say. They say that the beast was killed and that it's stored now in the bait shack on the beach. But maybe there are more." And he nudges his cap.
Philip kind of twitches and like he was kind of nodding off. He's kind of, "Huh? What? Oh, I'll tell you what an abomination is. That story was an abomination." And he kind of pushes the dwarf's hat back towards him.
Gabriel just looks over at Philip, and he just kind of almost harshly whispers, "Philip!" And he pulls out 4 gold coins, one for each of them, and places them in the hat. And then just kind of gives a scathing look to Philip.
Seeing the gold coins drop into the cap, his eyes widen. "Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You are too kind. It is difficult being a bard with a voice like mine." And he takes his cap, puts it back on, counting his coins, bowing. And as he's sort of moving away from the table, the elven bartender approaches. Says, "All right, get away, Chip. Get away. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to you." "So sorry about that. Chip the Boring. He always has to bother visitors with his stories, but no one wants to hear him." And as he's telling you this, he's setting a couple platters down on the table, and you see that the food that he's setting down is nothing extravagant. You see some pickled vegetables in jars, a few tins of preserved fish, salted fish, and he sets tankards in front of you of this kind of pale, kind of bland-smelling alcoholic beverage, kind of a nothing strong, nothing flavorful. It's just sort of this swill that he said was left over from the last fermentation. And he also puts a bottle of white wine, Dernish white wine, on the table. "Will there be anything else?"
Some information, perhaps. Have a seat, sir.
"Oh, and he seems to about to be making an excuse as to why he can't sit down, but then he looks around and sees that there are no other customers and right, pulls up a chair and sits down at the table sort of uncomfortably and just kind of waits.
I kind of start pacing back and forth behind him, occasionally putting my hand on the back of his chair. So we could not notice there were problems here. What's going on?
Well, it's It's the sickness. It's fish fever, they're calling it. It's swept through the town over the last few weeks, and most of the town is bedridden with it. Horrible, horrible thing. We've already lost a few.
And does anyone know the cause? Who brought it here? Where it came from?
Well, there's lots of theories. I personally think it's that lizardman's fault. The one sleeping on the beach. He came into town shortly before the fish fever took hold, and I think it's his fault.
And the story the bard was telling.
Pay no attention to Chip. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You heard his voice.
Really?
He's not right in the head.
I haven't seen anyone here yet who's right in the head. So, this lizard person you spoke of, you said he just came to town?
A few weeks ago, yes, right before the fish fever took hold. He sleeps on the beach. He has a small tent out there. I don't know why we let him stay here.
So I kind of sit down and I pull out a little leather pouch, open it up, and I begin pulling out little sheets of paper, and I begin making notes.
Am I, he kind of, noting your get-up, Benson, would look to your companions kind of questioningly and say, am I, in trouble?
I look up and I hold his gaze for a long few seconds. Not yet.
Not yet, right. What are you all doing here, if I might ask? How did you get in? I thought they weren't letting people inside the village anymore.
I kind of just nod to my companions to talk to him, and I start writing, line after line.
The curious behaviors of the town of Sandwall have attracted the attention of various authorities in Dern. I represent the interests of the Arcanus Collegium, so I dare say you're in no trouble from us, good man. But I can't speak for the constable.
Right. So you're here to help, then? Is that what you're getting at?
I'll observe and report and see whether or not there is a hand that needs to be lent.
Observe and report? Well, of course there's a hand that needs to be lent. There are people dying in the stable. We're in dire straits, my friend. You've come at a very, very dire time for our village. I mean, look it. This is the last of our food I'm serving you. A few jars of pickles and some salted fish. We have no water. We don't know what to do.
I'm sorry, where did the water go?
Well, the water didn't go anywhere, but it seems to make things worse.
I see. Jots that down. And,
in fact, we're not eating or drinking anything, really, by order of the mayor.
Very well. I spin a little piece of paper I have around, and I put it right in front of him, and I hand him this sort of stick of charcoal. I say, if you would sign here, please.
Sign, right. Should I read it?
It's not necessary. It's just a report that of what you told us, that I spoke to you, and that you are indeed verifying these words.
And he would sort of take the quill from you and then look up, sort of confirming with your companions that it is okay to sign.
Gabriel would just kind of give him a nod.
Right.
Philip would be trying to read what it was that Benson wrote, kind of looking.
I've learned it's best to just do what he wants you to do because it's less painful.
Less painful. Okay. Yep. And he would just scratch his name and slide the paper back over, and you see that he's signed Landon, and he slides it back over to you.
Very good, sir. You're free to go. and I rolled a little sheaf of paper up and tuck it in my pouch.
I dare say, sir. From where do you draw your water?
Well, we used to draw it from the well at the center of town, but we can't anymore. The water was bad. It had an ill taste to it, and it seemed to make people worse. And he would sort of look to all of you and say, just holler if you need anything else. Like I said, we don't have much, but if you're here to help, you're welcome to anything that I have.
You're not serving us contaminated food, are you?
No, of course not. This was, everything was pickled or preserved before the fever took hold, and alcohol doesn't seem to be affected by it. It's only things from before. I promise.
All right, then.
Yeah, so we'll let him sort of walk away and say, well, we can either speak to the mayor or check out this well.
He mentioned something of the stables as well.
Yes.
But I do agree that perhaps now might be the time to speak to the mayor.
Get him while he's cornered. Good.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yes, definitely something along those lines.
Oh, good. More bureaucrats.
I turned to him slightly offended. Excuse me, sir, but the bureaucracy that we use to run our little civilization is vital.
Vital to the people.
Every piece of paper matters.
Oh, but how easily it burns.
I fold my pouch tightly shut and sling it back over my hip.
And I would hold up a glass and say, a celebration? He's speechless for a change.
I choke down some of the nasty pickled things that have been here, just because just more out of obligation to my body to keep it running.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best tasting food you've ever eaten in a tavern, but it's not the worst either. The flavors are fairly bland. It's clear that these things were jarred and preserved probably last season. But it's food, and it doesn't taste rotten. And while you're eating, Landon kind of busies himself just sort of wiping down the counter and just sort of going through the motions in his tavern more than anything else. And he would go over to the elven man sitting at the table, the bald elven man, and sort of speak a few words to him, and the elven man would decline whatever's being offered, and Landon would go back to the bar and continue wiping it down.
So I look to the others. I say, well, seems perhaps there's some sort of sorcery at work, and I look to those that I know are spellcasters to get their input.
That definitely might be worth checking out the well, I suppose. certainly something going on aside from the smell and lack of fashion sense.
Yes, I wouldn't rule out good old-fashioned waterborne disease, but yes, you're right. Perhaps some sort of arcane deviousness is afoot here.
Perhaps. Seems strange that it would just start this suddenly, though. Unless it was done deliberately. Either way, there is foul behavior afoot. So I guess we'll finish up and take a trip to the well.
So you're heading out to the well?
I'll settle up with Landon before we leave.
Yeah, we're not really savoring the food as such, so we're not messing around, not taking any time with that. Can't even enjoy the good drinks, so why bother if it's not any fun? So yeah, so I as we sort of finish up, I say, so we all agree to the well then.
Absolutely.
Sounds like as good a place as any to start.
Maybe we might even have an intelligent conversation.
Wouldn't hold your breath.
So the four of you set out from the hardy harpoon and head out into the center of town, and you can see the well is there. As you're walking, you pass by a gnome, very well dressed, well manicured beard with a curling mustache, and he inclines his head towards you as you pass by, and you see he's oiling a crossbow on his lap, just sort of humming to himself as you pass by. The well appears old and probably one of the first structures that was built here in Sandwall when it was founded. You can see that it has a winch and a bucket kind of sitting on the side, but it's clear that it hasn't been used for some time, and there's no one milling about it right now at the moment.
Okay, I guess I'll kind of walk over to the edge and kind of peer over it into the darkness, see if I see water or anything like that.
You don't see anything. It goes pretty deep and it's pretty dark, but you can hear kind of lapping water, sort of echoing up from out of the well.
So I look back helplessly at the at the others, as if, well, there you go, take a look. I gesture.
I would kind of sneak up behind him and slap him on the back and say, "Long way down, huh?"
I tense up my kind of slumming my leg against the stone, and I just close my eyes and count quietly to myself.
Philip watches that happen, kind of shakes his head, and then he walks over and grabs the bucket and kind of looks in it for a second, notices that it's dry, maybe a little dusty in the bottom, looks down in the well and just pushes the bucket down and starts lowering it.
As you push the bucket down, the rope on the winch just kind of creaking, and the bucket drops and drops, and you hear it go as it lands in the water below. And there's a moment of silence, and then there's kind of a strange skittering noise. And then you hear some squeaking. And the squeaking is getting louder and louder. And anyone looking down the well sees movement, a flurry of movement.
I just kind of and I take a couple steps back.
And I would be leaning even more forward, like, oh, what is that?
And the darkness, Brandon, is suddenly illuminated. And you see dozens of burning red eyes. And then a cloud of bats just bursts up out of the well, exploding out into the air. But these bats are not normal bats. They're not typical bats. Their eyes are aflame. They're literally burning. And these bats, as they soar up out of the well, the wooden structure around the well, the winching system, bursts into flame immediately. I'd like for you to all roll initiative, please. Okay. So. Okay. So, Gabriel, you are up first as this burning cloud of bats, just cinders flying off of it in every direction, comes exploding out of the well.
Unmute. Gabriel instinctively also jumps back, and upon seeing the well components burst into fire and these flaming bats, he just immediately flips his hand up and mutters something, and a almost steaming with frost beam of white blue light just shoots out of his hand into the swarm as he fires off a ray of frost. Nat 20. That's a good way to start the day off.
Awesome, yeah, man.
So, I crit on a spell. So as he shoots this ray of frost in, does 13 points of cold damage.
The ray hits one of these bats and just disintegrates it in a cloud of icicles, and then continues through the cloud and hits another one. You see maybe 2 or 3 bats just puff into a cloud of ice as the ray just streaks through the cloud. All right. Next up is Benson.
All right, so as I well back and I see this thing kind of explode outward, I grab the shield off my shoulder, while simultaneously drawing my my family short sword from a sheath, and I'm putting up the shield at this point because these things are just still exploding out, and I'm waiting to see where they're going to go, if they're attacking us directly or if they're just getting away like normal bats. But I'm definitely keeping that shield up between me and them.
Okay, awesome. Would you like to ready an action for if they attack you to be able to attack back?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I'm ready. If any of them are coming at me, then they'll.
Oh yeah,
taste me
they're definitely coming at you. They're sort of swarming and circling all over the place. So.
Yeah. So obviously, like I said, if they're looking hostile, then I'll just swing at the nearest one, just blurring the blade through the air.
Awesome.
17.
That's a hit.
All right. For a grand total of 10. This little short sword just seems like an extension of my hand. I bring it up, slice it. You see little bits of something fly off of this thing as it cuts into it.
Yeah, and as you just slice through it, it sort of burns away into, just kind of goes poof as it releases this intense burst of heat, just exploding sort of in front of you in this tiny little burst, like a firework. Okay. All right, next up is Brandon.
Okay, so the first thing Brandon does is scream like a little girl. And these bats are like flying in into his face, I imagine, because he's leaning so far forward, and he kind of falls back on his ass, just like a little bit of a panic. He starts to reach back for his quiver, and he looks at all this cloud of bats, and he's kind of like, probably not going to work. So he reaches for a sheath, and he pulls out what looks to be half of a longsword, like a longsword that's been cloven and almost looks like somebody snapped it in half. And he reaches into reaches under the other side of his thigh, and he pulls out the other half of the sword, which is wrapped in leathers. This is a reskinning of 2 short swords.
Awesome, that's great.
Basically, I'm just gonna swipe at this mass as if I can, if I'm within range of them, just kind of swiping at them in front of me.
Yeah, you're absolutely in range. They're all over the place.
Okay, so let's see. I'm just gonna make both of these, and 18 and 11.
The 18 definitely hits. The 11 does not.
So it's just kind of frantically stabbing at the air. And then let me see my. Oops. That is 7 damage.
Okay.
As I just kind of catch one.
Yeah. And you bring your broken blade up, and again the same thing happens that happened with Benson. As the blade cleaves through this bat, it just erupts in a gout of flame and smoke. All right, Philip, you're up. Oh, you're muted, Ben.
Unmuted and then muted again. Philip screams the same way Brandon did, because he was kind of watching the bucket go over, and all of a sudden all these bats just fly in his face. And he screams and then ducks down and kind of huddles with his back against the side of the well as the bats go flying up over the top of him. And he sticks his hand out, kind of like Gabriel did, same sort of motion, and mutters something under his breath, and nothing happens, and he kind of just, damn it, and then he mutters it again, and this time finally a similar blue beam, but not quite as powerful or spectacular as Gabriel's, kind of sputters and then shoots out of his fingers, and it's 19 to hit on a Ray of Frost.
Yeah, definitely hits.
Okay, that's 6 damage.
Another bat explodes as this arc of cold just slices right through it. Now, as the bats start to swarm you, and you see that some of them are sort of flying back into the well, out of the sunlight, getting back in the darkness, but many of these are still swarming around you, just frenzied, frantic chaos. These pops start going off all around you, almost like anti-aircraft fire, just like all around you. And you can see that it's hard to see, but you can almost discern that these pops are originating from the bats. Their eyes sort of flare up red, and then the pop goes off. They're almost like superheating the air in front of them somehow. You've never seen anything like this. And I suppose I should get some dice out if we're going to play D&D, right?
Why not?
Wow. Okay. So Gabriel, you take 7 fire damage. Benson, you take 5 fire damage. Brandon, you also take 7 fire damage. And Philip, you take 4 fire damage. As these explosions just go off right next to you, and you feel this superheated burst of air, and anything you have on you that is flammable doesn't burst into flames, but you can see it smoldering and smoking from this intense heat being emitted by these bats.
My hand immediately goes to my pouch with all my documents in it, making sure that it's secured.
Yeah, you maybe brush off a few cinders from it, keeping it from going up completely. I can only imagine. Okay, we're back to top of the initiative with Gabriel.
Oh. Yeah, Gabriel's not... He's kind of looking carefully at his robe covered in patches and just making sure they're all intact real quick. And he is going to... He's going to do the same thing. They say fight fire with fire, but in this case, ice seems to do the trick. $24.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's going to be 4 cold damage as he fires off another ray of frost, and he starts to, as he fires this off, he's kind of looking. Are these bats completely swarmed all around us, or are they still around? Like, so there's nowhere to go.
No, like if you moved 10 feet in any direction, you would probably get out of the swarm. Just right now, it's mostly originated around the well as they're sort of struggling and crowding themselves to try to get back into the darkness, but they're just kind of all around you.
Yeah, I want to not be there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, he'll do that. He'll actually try to move outside of the cloud after he fires off this ray of frost.
Okay, yeah. You sort of move, swatting bats aside, and find yourself mostly outside of this swarm, so to speak.
All right.
Okay. Next up is Benson.
Is Brandon still on the ground?
I'd like to imagine that I'm kind of like kind of sitting on the ground, trying to fend these things off. Right. Top of my mohawk smoldering a little bit.
So what Benson does is I take my shield and I'm like batting at someone with the shield, slicing it with the sword as I'm working my way over to Brandon on the ground to sort of stand over him and shield him from these things, and I'll take a shot at one on the way. 20, so I'm assuming that hits. 11 points of damage. So yeah. Slicing another one, smacking another one with the shield as it bounces off with a clang. And like I said, my goal is to get over Brandon so that I can keep these things from getting to him.
Yeah, and you managed to take out another 2 bats as you wade through this swarm, and you can see Gabriel sort of moving outside of it as you're moving towards Brandon. Brandon, a shadow falls over you, and you see your companion Benson shielding you with his shield. It is now your turn.
I'm kind of looking up at him incredulously, like, no one's ever done this for me. And it's like, I'm not sure exactly how to react. I would turn to him and say, there's something I could do if we want to get away from the swarm, but it's going to get kind of hard to see. Should I do it?
Does it look like the swarm? It looks like the swarm is all trying to go back into the well at this point. So probably just a matter of time before it's not a problem. I say, I say no. Get to the outside. Back away. I'll cover you.
and I give you kind of for the first time I give you kind of like a respectful little nod, just a subtle, very very subtle little nod as I bolt away from this. Is there anything in my line of running that I can just, I'm not even, I imagine I'm not even slicing at them anymore. I'm just kind of like swatting them away as I run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can just give me like a single or your normal attack roll to do some damage as you're running out of the cloud.
25.
Yeah.
For 7 damage.
Awesome. So as you're moving through, another couple bats kind of go up in flame as you're running, and more of these pops are going off all around you, and you kind of feel the heat of these pops as you're leaving the cloud, and you sort of stumble out of it, and you see Gabriel standing there.
As I'm running past the wizard Gabriel, I go, maybe it's just a disease, huh?
All right, Philip, you're up.
So Philip's still kind of cowering he's kind of sitting with his back up against the side of the well as the bats are swarming around him. And he launches off another ray of frost into the cloud for 14 to hit.
Yeah, that hits.
And that is 14 damage.
Ooh, man, yeah. 2 or 3 bats you just send this ray through the cloud, and you see them just turn to cinders, ash sort of sprinkle the ground as they erupt.
And he would use the cover from that as those bats have kind of popped around him to start trying to scramble away from the cloud, crawling underneath it all.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, you also emerge from the swarm. So the bats spiraling all around you, you see that they are just sort of cramming themselves into the well, just struggling to fight past each other to get back into the darkness. And after a few moments, they all sort of disappear into the well or fly off in other directions. A few more pops go off as they sort of disappear, and you're left just kind of standing there, and there's ash just falling from above you from all these bats that have exploded.
Yeah, I sweep some of the ash from my bald head, just give it a quick brush off, and and I kind of turn to look at Philip. I say, "What in God's name were those things?"
I suppose it depends on which god you speak to, but I have no idea. He's kind of looking over his clothes, and there's some burnt marks on him, and he's this is my last good set.
Well, I think we can agree it's clearly not something normal.
Yeah, there was absolutely nothing normal about that.
What concerns me is that no one mentioned it. So either they didn't know or they're lying to us. Not good either way.
As you are standing there sort of getting your bearings, the gnome that you saw polishing his crossbow kind of trots over. You see he has a bolt loaded into the crossbow. He's kind of looking around. He sees all of you, sweat shining on your faces, weapons drawn. Are you all right?
Fair enough. You know of these things?
The bats? Can't say that I do. First I've seen of them. Never seen anything like that before.
That is disturbing, then.
And he sort of disengages the draw on his crossbow, returns the bolt to its quiver, and shoulders it. And he walks up to you, specifically Benson, and holds out a hand.
I say, Constable Cooper, from Durn.
Aldrin, bounty hunter. Pleased to meet you.
I kind of look at the grip of my hand. And I kind of take my hand back, not rudely, but break the hand a little sooner than that. It's a bounty hunter. Well, you have a business or pleasure?
A little of both, I'm afraid. And no need to be uncomfortable. You'll find that all my papers are in order, registered with the city and everything. What brings a constable so far from his jurisdiction? And with such mixed company. And he kind of looks past Benson to the other three.
I gesture to the well. Things here. You may have noticed it's not exactly the thriving township it was a short time ago.
No, indeed it's not. I was here last year, and it was a bustling little village. People out on the bay, day and night. Thriving marketplace, merchants coming in and out. Now it's barely a shadow of what it once was, I'm afraid. But work is work, so here I am.
True. Well, we're here on business. If you see anything, anything else unusual, you should let us know immediately.
Of course, and maybe we can help each other out. If I hear anything about the sickness or what is happening here in Sandwall, I will let you know. And if you hear anything about a certain half-elf brigand, you will tell me. A man by the name of Slimy Jack.
Does the name strike me as familiar at all?
I would imagine, as a constable, you have probably heard that name before.
Yeah.
It's not somebody super well known, but definitely a name that you would hear, working with criminals and things like that.
I nod. I say, I've heard of him. Well, fair enough. And watch yourself. This, whatever this is could be disease, could be sorcery, black magic. We don't know yet.
I've learned to be cautious. Likewise. And he would sort of salute you slightly, twirl his mustache a little bit, and return from where he came.
While Benson and the gnome were talking, Philip would have been kind of poking through the what's left of the bats, trying to see if there's anything there that might give any indication of origin or what the heck they are, or if there's anything left.
Yeah, so as you're sort of sifting through the ashes, you find a few charred bones, but it's mostly just ashes at this point. But if you want to give me an Arcana check, Philip, you might be able to discern some more.
That was 9.
Yeah, it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's definitely not a natural occurrence. Definitely magical in nature.
I kind of hunker down next to him. I say, if you're going to trace the source of this water, how would you do it?
I'm no civil engineer, but I suppose I have no idea, honestly.
Matt, I'm wondering, as a very learned scholar of the Arcanus Collegium, if perhaps in my studies I would have come across information about the sewer systems or the city in general.
Yeah, if you want to give me a history check, you could certainly try and delve into your memory and see if there's anything that you recall.
It would appear that I never bothered to check those books out. That was a 3 modified to a 9, so...
Yeah, you know, you kind of didn't think that learning about the sewer system in this area was beneficial to your magical studies.
I'm gonna ponder the question. Just look thoughtfully down into the well alongside Constable Benson. Reach into my pocket and withdraw one of these magical beets. And I'm gonna just kind of look at it and kind of look at my singed robes and some of my burned skin, and I'm gonna just take a bite of it.
So you chomp into it. It's a raw beet, and so it just has this very grainy, gritty texture, and it snaps off like an apple, but it does not have the taste or texture of an apple at all. And so you're basically just chewing what feels like sand in your mouth. And it's probably one of the most bitter things you've ever tasted, but as you're chewing it, you feel kind of this warmth overcome you. And I'd like you to roll a 1d6 and add 2 to that and regain that many hit points.
That's a 2 plus 2 is 4. And I would just kind of look around at everybody with this, like I'm trying to smile and just go, it's really good. And
But you're actually eating
I feel better. I feel a little better.
Now, Gabriel, I'd also like you to roll a 1d4 and tell me what you get.
Of course. What did I say? A 4 I had? So, okay. I have 1d4.
Yeah.
That's a 4.
So, your teeth are also stained a vibrant purple for 4 days. So as you smile, as you're sort of swallowing this beet that Cordell said she used to make dyes, your 3 companions just see that your teeth have turned this sort of vibrant purple color.
I just look at the rest and nod. I say, wait to see what comes out the other end.
Oh, that got me, Alex. Okay, I think this is as good a time as any for a short break, so we're going to step away for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back to continue the session, so please stay tuned.
So I will take advantage of the break real quick to remind anybody that is watching. If you click on the link in the description, there is a link to a video on the Mini Terrain Domain channel that will have the information on how you can enter to win a custom-designed sewer terrain piece from this very adventure that I have designed and built. You can win not 1, but 2 hand-painted sewer sharks from the adventure, as well as a Tales from the Sewers t-shirt from Absolute Tabletop and a free copy of the Sewers Under Sandwall PDF, also contributed from the fine folks at Absolute Tabletop. Additionally, the gentlemen have offered up 2 more t-shirts and digital PDFs of the adventure for a first runner-up and a second runner-up. The contest will run through 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Friday, April 15th, after which I will choose a winner, and I will post that winner in a video on youtube.com/miniterraindomain and on facebook.com/miniterraindomain. And I'll probably share that over on the Absolute Tabletop official group. And other places like that. So head on over there, leave a comment on that video telling me what treasure you might find in the sewers under Sandwall, and enter to win this awesome prize pack.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote all my cantrip spells at their first level, or below sixth level. I think all of them at fifth level go up, so I fixed that. Um, Yeah, basically I halved my damage potential on those 2 rays of frost.
Yeah. That's one of the cool things about spells in 5th edition is they have a lot of cantrips and low-level spells have that staying power at higher levels where they just keep getting better, so it incentivizes you to use things like Ray of Frost at high levels, which is awesome. Chad in the chat asks, what do we need to do to enter again? You go to the video in the description and leave a comment with a magic item that adventurers would find in the sewers, and yeah, you just leave a comment with that on the video, and then Jake will pick a grand prize winner and 2 runner-ups to win some cool stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and it could be as simple as a ring, but I would hope you would elaborate on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's been a couple of pretty big entries. Like, I know at least one person wrote like 4 or 5 paragraphs.
Yeah.
I think they basically wrote the adventure of how to get this
yeah.
magic item, which was really cool.
Yeah, I was looking through the comments. Some people have really gone all out with it. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually thinking about doing something with that. At least, maybe collecting all those magic items and making them freely available on MTD or something like that.
That would be really cool.
There's a lot of really great ideas in there, and I don't think we've had probably 100 entries so far, and I don't think I've seen a duplicate at all. Everybody's coming up with unique magical items.
That's really cool. All right. Chicken Bus asked if they can win Hot and Readies. Unfortunately, that's not one of the prize items. But
that's because it wouldn't be hot or ready by the time it got to you.
Exactly. And you don't want to win a pizza in a sewer contest. You just don't. I wouldn't eat it.
That makes me want to try to craft a tiny little Hot and Ready to leave floating in the sewage. I'm only half joking.
That would be awesome.
It would require a Constitution saving throw to finish eating it. All right. So, if you guys are ready, we're going to go ahead and continue the adventure here. So, you're standing sort of around this well where moments ago a bunch of smoldering bats capable of superheating the air around them just exploded out from this well after being disturbed, and now you're sort of recovering from that battle. What would the 4 of you like to do at this point?
Well, I'm considering the well, and since the wizard didn't seem keen on perhaps a way to track it, I'm kind of talking to myself as I kind of pace to say, well, they must have town records. And so I start kind of looking around for any kind of official town building.
So the one that you would probably notice most is sort of down the road and up a hill. You see this large, looks like it might be a storehouse of some kind, sort of sitting up on the hill, and it's definitely the largest building in the town, and you can see that it was most recently painted as well.
Well, all good investigative work is 80% research, so let's go check town records, unless anyone else has any other ideas.
You're the investigator.
Well, yes, but you're here for reasons too, presume.
I'm here because my father sent me. Don't really want to be here, but Well, I got to do what he says, so I'm here.
And I would take out the paper, the multiple folded paper, and I would say, I'm here because I got this note. Some very good friends of mine are turning in a big favor.
I look almost desperately to Gabriel, like as if to say, surely you must be here for a noble reason.
I'm here to find out what is the cause of the mysterious happenings here and see what we can do about it. And I am absolutely excited about the idea of pawing through manuscripts and scrolls of the town records to see what we can find.
I smile, kind of nod, look satisfied. Good.
I smile back with a mouthful of red teeth. Or purple teeth.
Philip yawns when you start talking about manuscripts. Oh, that was the worst part of study at the Arcanum or the college Collegium.
Yeah, so I will, unless anyone has any objections, we'll go see if we can find any town records.
So you head up to this this large building. Again, it looks like it's a repurposed storehouse of some kind. The white painted walls are kind of chipping and peeling a little bit due to the salt in the air and the wind coming off of the bay. But as you approach, you see that there's a small placard on the door that reads, Mayor Zelb, Residence.
So I guess I'll just go up to the door and give it a good, leather gauntleted hand, a good pounding, boom, 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 boom.
There's some rustling inside. You hear some footsteps, some more rustling. There's a loud bang and a curse as someone inside trips over something. And then you hear something being sort of scraping along the floor right on the other side of the door. The door opens up and you see an older man standing there. He has kind of a balding head. The hair on the sides of his head is gray and kind of fraying, kind of frizzy. He stares out at you with these storm gray eyes out through the slit in the door. What do you want?
I'm Constable Cooper from Dern. We're here investigating the illness that has gripped the town, and we need to see We need to see a town's records, particularly maps, if any. He
kind of contemplates this for a second and then opens the door all the way, and you see him standing there. You see that he's well-muscled, clearly is a laborer by trade, but he has kind of a sagging gut from age and from ale, and he's holding in his hand a cudgel, just kind of a simple worn wooden cudgel. And as he opens the door and he sees the four of you, he kind of leans the cudgel against the door, opens the door all the way. Come in then, come on, quick.
All right, go in.
Philip follows Benson in, and as he's walking in, he reaches into a pouch on his belt and slides on his father's signet ring.
As the four of you enter, the mayor, you can assume he is, closes the door behind you, and you see him push a small dresser in front of the door, blocking it from being opened, kind of grunting as he does so. And he wipes a little bit of sweat from his brow. Inside, you see that there are kind of area rugs, soft area rugs that are well worn on the floor. You see on the wall, as immediately as you come in, there's a wooden plaque on the wall that reads, "Dedicated to Mayor Zelb for his unyielding support of the people of Sandwall. And there are shelves here and there with various, like, you can see that there are some simple, like, fishing trophies, which are little more than wooden rounds with the date and the prize that he won sort of scored into them. There are several fishing spears and a couple of rods leaned up against one wall. There's a door that you can assume leads into his bedroom. And he leads you into what appears to be a simple dining room with a well-worn sort of rustic table that is kind of balancing precariously on these legs that are little more than tree branches that have been cut and slotted into this big slab of wood. He would gesture to the chairs to have you sit, and he stands sort of over the table, waiting for you all to be seated.
I don't take a seat, but I stand near one of them and say, "Are we expecting trouble?"
Trouble. In a matter of speaking, you said that you're from Dern, all four of you?
Yes.
Well, I didn't think that anyone would come to help. I am relieved that a constable has been set to see to our problems. I'm afraid things are very dire here in Sandwall. I'm Zelb. I've been mayor here for a couple of decades. I've lived here my whole life. And I've never seen it like this. I've never seen anything quite like this. And I've fished these waters my entire life.
Well, you have to excuse us. We know little of what's been going on here, except for some rumors we managed to pick up coming into town. Perhaps you could give us more details. When did all this start?
The fever, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when, but it's at least 3-4 weeks ago, maybe a little over a month since the symptoms first started appearing. At first, we just assumed it was a bout of the flu or a string of bad fish or something, but more and more people got sick. At this point, he would pull out a chair and sit down, and he reaches under the table and brings up a bottle onto the table, uncorks it. You see that there's a label across it that says saltwater stout. And he sniffs from the bottle. Oh. Last bottle in the village. Allow me to offer you gentlemen some. And he pours himself a small mug of it, pours 4 more mugs, and slides them across the table to you. And he downs his first mug and then pours another one and sips it as he continues to speak, sort of calming his nerves, steadying himself. The sick people, they, well, at first it was just a fever. And then they would have trouble breathing, shortness of breath. Some of them started getting a weird color to their eyes and their skin, getting very pale, almost greenish tinge. A few of them have a scaly texture to their skin. It's the strangest thing. I've never seen anything like it, and we've had plagues go through the town before, but nothing like this. This is something not natural.
I see. And do you know anything about the strange creatures we saw in the well?
Strange creatures in the well. And as soon as you mentioned strange creatures, you see his face go pale.
I can note that. So yeah, yes, bat-like creatures, but with sorcerous powers, they could set things alight.
Bat-like creatures. No, I'm not familiar with that. We a couple of nights ago. Yes, I think it was 2 nights ago. A creature came over the wall. It was just after midnight. It was horrible. Unlike anything I've ever seen before. It walked upright like a man, but it wasn't. It was something misshapen, something... It looked like a shark. And I know... I know how that sounds. Believe me, I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it myself. A great, hulking man-shark.
Brandon would spit at the ground and say, "Ugh, I hate monstrosities."
Are you all familiar with things like this?
Well, not this specifically. I look to Philip. I say, Philip, have you heard of anything like this?
I can't say that I have, though. Shark fin soup does sound pretty good.
Oh, it is. Shark fin soup is delicious, and I would offer you some if we weren't abstaining from all food and drink.
Well, I look at the tankards all around, and I kind of push mine aside.
And he says, "You needn't worry about the alcohol. Bottled long before the fish fever took place." And he would down another glass. Believe me, I've been drinking this pretty regularly.
And Philip picks up his mug and kind of smells it, and his eyes kind of roll back for a sec. Ah, yes, just as I remember it, I do miss this stuff. And takes a long swig of it.
Yeah, and it's good. It's definitely the best thing you've had since you arrived in Sandwall. It's much, much better than that swill that they were serving at the Hardy Harpoon.
I say, I apologize. I say, my apologies. I can't while on duty.
Gabriel, upon hearing this, will, while sipping from his own mug, will just kind of reach over and take Constable Cooper's mug and slide it over in front of him. And he says, you mentioned this creature that came over the wall. There was a young dwarven lad in the Hardy Harpoon that sang us a tale of a creature and mentioned it was... and he consults his notes, kind of flipping through. He said something about in a bait shack. Is there indeed a specimen that we could look at of this shark creature?
Yes, the corpse is being stored in the bait shack on the beach. I can't believe you actually managed to listen to Chip long enough to glean anything from one of his stories.
It's our job, sir.
Not a job I'd want to have, that's for sure, but I appreciate that you are doing it nonetheless. If you wish to see the creature, I can take you there.
I glance right at the others. I say, very good.
One thing before we leave, as he's standing up, he downs his last mug of the saltwater stout before putting the cork back in the bottle. About a week ago, 2 of our young men, they left the village and headed north, trying to find the source of the fish fever. They had it in their heads that it had something to do with the sewers up there. There's a big stone pipe a few hours north of the village that empties into Bleakwater Bay, carries all the wastewater from, all the cities of the region, really. Well, they haven't come back. And seeing the man-shark creature, and now you're mentioning bats with sorceress abilities. I can't imagine that they're still alive.
But they're certainly not staying for the ambiance.
Oh, I can't imagine. Well, come. I'll take you to the corpse, and you can inspect it if you wish. But
Yes, please.
be warned, it's horrible to behold. And he would kind of leave the table. You see his hands kind of shaking. He would hold his hands, trying to steady his nerves. He would go up to the dresser and shove it away from the door again, open the door, and he would take his cudgel with him as he stepped out into the daylight.
All right. Follow him.
He walks a ways down the road and then veers off to the right and heads towards the coastline to the beach. You all kind of feel the sand beneath your feet, sort of giving way beneath your boots. And you see that there's a small shack, probably a storage shack of some kind used to store bait and things like that would, stink if stored in the town. And as you approach, you definitely catch wind of something that reeks, something foul. It's a rotting, fishy smell, unlike anything you've ever smelled. Overpowering, almost. So much so that I'm going to need you to give me a Constitution saving throw, please.
So 21. I'm pretty used to this being a member of the the sewer society myself.
12.
10 for me.
19.
So everyone manages to contain themselves except for Philip. You retch up the pickled fish that you had eaten before at the Hardy Harpoon. It's overwhelming, this stench, and you can't help but vomit almost immediately as you walk through the cloud of it.
Well, I was going to do that anyway, so perfect.
And
Look, it looks the same on the ground as it did in the bow.
Huh, imagine that, you're right.
Zelb kind of holds his hand over his nose and nods, and as he approaches the bait shack, you see that that there's a broad older man standing outside of the shack. He has kind of a bristly, unkempt mustache, sort of like a Sam Elliott style mustache, where it's just hanging over his mouth and you can't even see his mouth hardly at all. And he nods to Zelb as the mayor approaches, and then looks past the mayor, and the two exchange a few words. And Zelb tells him, "These men are here to look at the body of the creature. They're here to help. One of them is a constable. I think they might be our only hope. Let them inside and answer any questions they might have." The older man with the mustache steps forward. "Name's Cal. Come on in. It's not much to look at." And he would open the bait shack, and another fresh gust of that smell hits you. You see inside the bait shack, there's no light source, but sunlight is sort of filtering through the slats of wood that make up the walls. Through this faint daylight and the dust filtering through it, you see the silhouette of a monstrous finned beast. And it's swaying back and forth, hung from a massive fishhook and chain affixed to the ceiling. Because of the light behind it, it's backlit. You can't make out any fine features of it, but the shape of it alone you can tell that it's something unnatural. Neither man nor shark, but something horrifically in between. And it just hangs there, rotting and stinking.
Philip, he kind of throws up in his mouth again. Excuse me. And he digs around in one of the little pouches on his belt and pulls out a piece of moss and kind of mashes it and pushes it into his ring and kind of mutters under his breath for a second. His ring lights up and starts glowing. I just cast light on it, basically, to give us a little better illumination on the shark thing. He starts kind of, with his hand in front of his mouth, looking around at it to see if he can see anything that his training at the Collegium, while he didn't pay too much attention, maybe he picked something up on his way through.
Yeah, and as you illuminate the bait shack, you can see the finer features of the man shark, and you see that it has this very rough, sort of green-gray kind of skin pulled taut over bulging muscles. A fin crests its head. You see that it has a hammerhead kind of shape to its features, two bulbous black eyes protruding from either side, a gaping maw dripping with blood with rows and rows of serrated teeth. About a dozen spears protrude from it. This thing took a lot of abuse before it finally succumbed to these spears from the fishermen of Sandwall. You can see that it's wearing kind of tattered rags. Not clothes per se, but you can see sort of the remains of maybe a pair of trousers here, a sleeve there, the remnants of a boot, and as its thin toes are ripping out of it. And anyone who wants to inspect it closer can give me an investigation check.
Yes, I'll absolutely lean in with this better light.
Yeah.
I could use to find my dice that I just dropped on the floor. Backup die. Investigation, you say?
Yeah.
11. Modified. To 11 from 5.
That was 18 for me.
So
20.
20, okay.
18 for me.
So the four of you are kind of circling this shark, sort of taking in the sights and the smells of it. You notice a few different things about it. Philip, you notice that there are certain patches of skin that almost have sort of a tan, sort of peachy color to them, and less of a rough texture, almost like human skin. That sort of, gradients into this rough, sandpapery shark skin. Benson, you notice the glint of metal in its head, and you would see protruding from its head, almost lost in its flesh, there appears to be a steel fishhook kind of sticking out of its head. And it wouldn't seem odd to you as much if it weren't that every single fisherman that you've seen here in Sandwall so far has a fish hook protruding from their ear, worn like an earring. You saw that Cal had it, Wint at the wall had it, even the mayor, Zelb, had a fish hook protruding from his ear. And finally, Brandon, you would notice that there is a scar on the shark's stomach. But it's not from a recent wound. It's not from these spears that are protruding from it. It appears as though it's a scar that was stitched up. You can faintly see the little dots from where it was stitched and healed up many, many months, if not years ago.
Gentlemen, I have one question for you. Have you ever heard of lycanthropes?
Yes, of course.
The concept of a werewolf or a werebear. I'm no magician, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks almost like a were shark.
Is such a thing possible, Philip?
Would I know if something like that might be possible?
You know that where creatures of all kinds are possible, but the thing that strikes you as odd about this, Philip, and sort of dissuades you from thinking, potentially lycanthropy. Typically, if a creature is killed while in some sort of bestial state, it will usually revert back to its human form if killed. And the fact that this thing is still very much monstrous strikes you as odd.
Yes, such a thing might be possible, Vincent, but normally when these lycanthropes die, they revert back to their human state. And this is very clearly not human.
I don't know. I only know a bit about the arcane, but I believe the same is true for any sort of transmutation spells. Yes?
Yes, that's also true if some sort of polymorph spell or something like that was at play. The effects of it would have worn off days ago, hours ago at the most.
Yes, Benson, you're correct about that.
So what is it? I am going to lean in and sort of like put my finger in one of the holes where the spear went through to sort of feel the texture of the skin, try and kind of look at the blood, trying to get a feel for how tough its hide is. Clearly, it took a lot to bring this thing down, and I sort of kind of eyeball it for any weak spots, perhaps.
Yeah, it's definitely has a thick, rubbery hide. The kind of hide that would turn a blade aside unless you had enough force going into it, enough inertia to pierce through the thick skin and the blubber and the muscle beneath. It definitely feels like a fish when you're feeling the flesh of it. It doesn't feel human to you, but much like Philip noticed, you see that there are portions of it that almost appear more human-like, almost like a different creature altogether.
If our guide is still there, I would ask them if anyone in the village had recently, or even a while ago, had surgery or had some kind of stitching done to their stomach.
If you ask Cal about that, the older man with the mustache, because Zelb pretty much hightailed it back to his house as soon as he dropped you off at the creature hut, Cal kind of says, "Say again? Surgery?"
Oh, those healers, sometimes they have to take some horsehair and a needle to the wound so it doesn't rip open, so it doesn't fester.
A scar on his stomach?
Oh, right, and I would kind of point to where I see see it on the chart. So kind of like this one.
No, that's not possible. That's not, no. His face is pale as he eyes the scar as you're pointing it out to him.
I kind of interrupt his thought. I say, those earrings you wear, the entire town wears them, yes?
No, not everyone. Any fisherman that manages to wrangle a rhino fish out of the bay, they get one. Sort of a rite of passage.
I see.
Why do you ask?
So like this one then, and I point to the one on the shark.
Oh gods. No, this is just simply not possible. The scar, the hook, I know them. This used to be a man.
Seems possible.
There's a young lad from the village. Name's Derm. A couple of years back, he cut his belly open with a fishing spear out on the bay. We were out in a rowboat together. Used a fishing hook and line to stitch it up myself. Keep his guts from spilling out on the deck. He and his brother, well, they left about a week ago, went north, trying to find the source of the trouble. I stitched that up. He points to the scar on the man-shark's stomach. I stitched him up myself. How could this be?
Philip,
Well, we don't know yet, sir.
I helped kill this thing. I put 4 or 5 spears in him. It used to be a man. It used to be one of us. It used to be my friend, Derm. That's what you're saying, right? With the fish hook and the scar.
Yes, sir, that is what we're saying.
Oh, hell.
I'm scribbling in my little notebook.
He looks for purchase behind him. He grabs onto the wall, feeling faint. It simply can't be.
I would take him by the arm and kind of gently pull him toward the door and say, perhaps some fresh air would be good for you, my good man.
Yeah, fresh air. Sure.
And
Well,
I want to kind of lead him outside away from the body.
I'll sort of turn and follow them, and I'll look to Philip. I say, is there anything you can learn from this? Perhaps how to stop it, or I don't know, maybe reverse what did it.
I'll take a look, I suppose. He kind of throws up in his mouth again as he goes back over the thing and starts examining it as closely as he can.
and what about you, Brandon? What are you doing?
I think I'm just kind of looking over moving up from the scar, kind of looking at this thing, just kind of muttering to myself, these goddamn magicians and their tricks, always trying to play like they're the gods, making these abominations. This is not natural. Something very wrong here. And out of character, Matt, is this would this be classified as a monstrosity?
Yeah, it absolutely would be.
So I've got this kind of a natural loathing towards anything that's sort of unnatural, like monstrosities and undead and things that are usually crafted by some kind of darker
Right.
magic.
Yeah, definitely not naturally occurring, like something happened to create this creature outside of the normal forces of nature. And Philip and Brandon, as you're sort of looking over the body, you can't really glean anything else from it other than what you already have. But what you come away with is that it seems to have at one time been a human man, that it's been dead now for a couple of days, and that even in death it did not revert back to its humanoid shape, and it appears that the change, whatever took place to make it happen, is permanent.
I'll have to say I agree with you, Brandon, on the whole monstrosity thing there. I've never seen anything like this at the Collegian myself. I sure as hell don't want to get anywhere near whatever caused this.
And yet, I fear that that's exactly what we must do. If this boy, this creature, was sent to investigate the source, then I fear that's where we'll have to go. I believe this is the source you also seek, Constable.
You may be right. I go up to the young man who was in there before. I say, actually, he's not a young man, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an older guy.
Older man, yeah. Sorry. So I go up to him and say, obviously very sorry for your loss. Excuse me, could you please sign this? This is positive identification of the missing person. I fill these reports out. You see, here, and I hold up my little pouch with a little flat surface on it. Just sign here, and initial there, please.
And Cal, this man, he's kind of sitting in the sand as you approach, and you see tears are streaming down his face and getting lost in his big bushy mustache. And he looks down at the pad of paper that you're shoving in his face. If I sign this, it's me saying that it is Durham. Right? It makes it real. Makes it so that's me saying it's him.
Well, it is real, I'm afraid, sir. I think there's little doubt at this point. This is simply for the record.
I think Brandon would kind of nudge in and say, "Hey, this isn't a good time. We'll come back. Your papers can wait. This man needs. He needs. He needs.
Okay, genuinely shocked. Papers can wait. I sit up and I say, and I'm looking at these papers, unsigned and uninitialed, and I finally put them back in, very reluctantly, but fine, we'll get it later.
If you help, if you find out what happened, what made Durham look like that, maybe find his brother, I'll sign your damn papers. I'll sign all the papers. I don't care.
Well, it's not for me, sir, but yes, of course, Lord.
I need to find someone else to watch this bloody shack. I can't do it no more. What do you do?
Turn away.
What do you do? Where will you go? We go to sewers like Rum and Durham did.
I look at the others, see what they look as if they're on board with this.
Oh, I absolutely think that's where we need to go.
It does sound like a good place to start. Can we see the tent with the lizardman in it from here?
Yeah, if you kind of look to your left down the beach a ways, you can see, maybe a quarter mile, eighth of a mile. You can see a little tent sort of fluttering in the wind, just kind of beyond a rise of hills in the beach.
I think it might not be a terrible idea to ask him over there, at least check him out, since our elf buddy back at the bar there, Landon, mentioned that everything started when he showed up.
Would be prudent. What time of day is it, by the way?
It's about midday at this point.
Okay, so plenty of time.
Yeah, you guys arrived sort of in the later morning and have been kind of roaming around the town for a couple hours at this point. So if you head down the beach, you do come upon a small tent, and it's literally just some sailcloth, kind of almost like lean-to style, sort of stretched between a stick and a little pile of sand. And you can see there's a kind of a bedroll sort of semi-protruding from this little tent. There's a cold fire pit with ashes in it. And you see a sort of strange, slouched figure in a cloak, kind of huddled against the wind coming off of the Bleakwater Bay. Just sort of with a dagger, whittling a stick, a piece of driftwood, and putting a point to this piece of driftwood. Almost looks like it's making a spear of some kind. And the hand that's gripping this dagger, you see it's covered in scales.
Excuse me, friend. Planning on doing some fishing?
The figure looks up at you, Philip, and you see that that lizardman was an apt way to describe this creature. It's humanoid, but its face appears as almost like a chameleon with eyes that are kind of swiveling nervously in all directions, and it kind of grips the dagger and the little spear that it's making sort of a little tighter as it sees you and hears you, and it says, "You could say something like that, yes."
Would I recognize maybe what this thing is?
It's you've heard stories of lizard folk before. They're not draconic in nature, so they don't really have a whole lot of relation to things like dragonborn or kobolds. They're sort of humanoid lizards, for lack of a better term. You've never seen one before, but you know that they're sapient creatures. They're capable of thought and speech, and clearly this one is it's not taking any sort of aggressive stance against you at this point either.
Is there any chance maybe you're preparing for something like is back in the shack back there?
What did you say?
Is there any chance that you're prepping maybe for something like what's back in that shack back there?
I heard there was something happened at the town. No, I'm afraid I'm preparing to defend myself. Some of the townsfolk have it in their head that it is my fault. All of this that's happening.
Is there any reason maybe that is?
Fear, suspicion. I'm a stranger. I don't look like everyone else, and I had the perfect timing of arriving just before the fever got really bad.
Perfect timing, right. What brought you here then?
Well, I'm supposed to meet someone here. Someone very important to me. They haven't arrived yet, and so I don't intend on leaving. But now I fear for my life. The barkeep, he keeps spreading tales about witchcraft, and I just have no patience for it. That's why I sleep out here on the beach instead of inside somewhere where it's warm.
Well, when people are afraid, they do dangerous things. You might want to consider moving further outside of town.
You're probably right, but I fear I will miss this person's arrival.
Well, do as you will, but I can tell you that these things usually get worse before they get better.
Who is it you're waiting for?
My wife. We have been apart for many years. I finally saved up enough gold to move her here to the coast. I think we're going to buy a plot of land just outside Strawford. I would hate to miss her.
Where was she coming from?
Very far away. Distant land where my people are from. A swampy area. East of the mountains.
Have you ever actually met this woman before?
Yes, we have been married for some time and we had many happy years together, but we want for something more for our children. I was told the city of Dern and the surrounding area is a great place of opportunity. And for the most part it is. I found work, made copper by copper, and now I can finally afford to move her here as well. If I don't get my throat cut by these superstitious fishermen first.
Well, I can assure you, sir, that the city of Dern does not support or condone vigilantism. So, should you run into any difficulty, please speak to the authorities about it. Perhaps the mayor could help you.
I don't think the mayor likes me much, but you're right. I appreciate the advice. I think I will find a spot to camp on the road. Maybe I can catch her before she gets to Sandwall. Where are you all headed? You seem to be moving north up the beach.
We're all meeting our wives as well. I say sarcastically.
That is funny.
So we're on Dern business. It's official, but just watch yourself.
Well, you as well. There are some strange happenings here, and I could swear, I have a pretty sharp sense of smell. I swear I can smell goblin a little further up the beach. Watch yourselves. He would kind of stand up and start packing up his stuff, rolling up his tent and all that.
When he mentions goblins, Philip kind of nudges Benson. I thought you guys were supposed to have taken care of that problem around here.
In fact, we have. I wouldn't put much stock in this, though I suppose there could be more moving in. They breed like rats.
They do at that.
Well, how far away were the sewers?
Just a couple hours walk.
Oh, okay. Say, well, if we're going to go to the sewers, we can decide now if we want to wait for a fresh start in the morning or if we want to set out today.
Well, the sun will be up long enough. If we're going under the sewers, it shouldn't matter too much, unless you're feeling sleepy.
Not particularly.
No time like the present.
Well, I don't relish the thought of entering the sewers at any time. If we leave now, we'll arrive at dark, and that sounds like the worst time of all, but whatever you guys want to do.
Seems kind of irrelevant if we're delving underground.
That's what I say. It's like swimming in the rain. It doesn't matter.
Oh, it's settled then. Should be off. And I assume we got at least rudimentary directions on how to get there.
Yeah, talking with Zeld and with Cal, you get the sense that the sewers are just up the beach to the north. So if you follow the coastline, you should run right into them because they empty into the bay.
Right.
So you set out,
sure.
trekking to the north, walking along the coastline. The midday sun high in the air, and you walk for 2 or 3 hours. As you do so, the sand beneath your feet slowly becomes more kind of sloshy and putrid, and a sort of smell, this reeking, rotting smell, kind of slowly overtakes your senses, where you don't even really notice it at first, and then you sort of realize that it's all you can smell. Finally, you see the source of the stench. Piles of dead, rotting fish washed up with the tide. But these aren't just normal fish. Some of them have extra eyeballs, extra fins. There's a couple that have multiple heads. There's a couple of fish that are lying dead with 2 heads coming out. Discolored scales and other strange features about them, and they're all lying dead in rotting piles. There has to be hundreds of them.
Philip kind of hikes up the cuffs of his pants a little bit as he's walking along, and he throws up in his mouth a little again like this. Oh gosh! Are you serious? You guys want to go in here?
It seems we have little choice. I don't relish the idea myself, but what else is there to do? I kind of wet kick one of these one of the nastier fish as it kind of breaks apart a bit as I kick it, and as if it's been like soaking in water for months and just kind of falls apart. I say, I assume this is related to the abomination we saw back at the shed.
All I know is if I start growing an extra head, please run some steel through me.
You have my word.
I'm sure you'd enjoy it a little bit too much.
As you
You can always try the beets. And I grin with my purple teeth again.
Those beets are only good for 2 things: rolling up and die.
Ting.
The trek takes you a little further north, where you soon see a large stone pipe protruding from the hillside and overhanging Bleakwater Bay. You can the sour smell is sort of emanating from this pipe, and you can see something dripping from the pipe, just kind of steadily trickling from it. And as you approach and get closer, you see that it's this viscous green sludge that almost has kind of an iridescent sort of quality to it as the daylight sort of plays against it. It's unlike anything you've ever seen before, and as you get closer and you see in the dimness of the pipe, you can see that this green sludge is actually glowing just ever so slightly. It has a dim luminescence to it. And it raises the hairs on your arm as you get closer to these sewers.
7 hells is that? Some kind of ooze infestation?
I kind of walk up to it. I take out one of my daggers and I kind of like scrape it along there to pick up a big slather of this kind of snot, and I kind of just like flip it once over so it flops over the blade, and I like kind of move it around a bit. What do you make of this, Philip? I kind of show it towards him.
Philip takes a step back and puts his hand over his mouth and kind of looks at it. He pulls out his dagger too. This kind of backward curved, slightly ornate affair. He kind of nudges it a couple of times. It appears to be some sort of glowing green goo. He wipes his dagger off and puts it back in its sheath.
Shrewd but dull. Gabriel?
I'd like to take a closer look at it and see if this looks familiar to me in any way.
If you want to give me an Arcana check or an investigation check, anyone who's looking at this, they can.
Yeah, I'll do investigation. It's my forte.
23.
19 on Arcana.
16 on investigation.
So, the two wizards, you guys are kind of looking at this, for lack of a better term, this glowing snot, as Benson put it. At first, the stench of it, the sight of it is just overpowering to you, but as you kind of get used to it and you look at it further, you start picking up familiar hints, certain smells that you are familiar with from your time working at the Collegium. You would notice some common ingredients used in things like healing potions and simple magical drafts of all kinds, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. It's mixed in. It's a slurry of all kinds of stuff that is reacting with other ingredients. It is most definitely magical in nature. If the glow didn't give it away, the fact that it is the way it moves, the way the light plays across it, it is definitely magical.
Hold on, Constable. And I kind of steady his arm for a second, holding the dagger so he doesn't do anything with it. And then I kind of look around on my robes for a second, like I'm searching for something, and then, there it is. And off on the side is a patch that has what looks like a bottle symbol on it. And I tear this patch off and kind of place it in my hand. As I open my hand, you see impossibly 4 bottles that I have to kind of use both hands to contain 4 healing potions appear. And I kind of look at them and I hand 1 healing potion to each of you. So you do have a bottle of healing potion, and then I take the 4th bottle of healing potion and I drink it to empty it, and I kind of need hit points anyway. So the beet didn't quite do the job. So all right. So now that the healing potion bottle is empty, I'm going to take a little bit of water from my water skin, rinse it out, and then take your hand, and not really taking the dagger from you, I use your wrist and kind of direct it to drip this ooze into this bottle.
Yeah, I kind of relax my arm, so I let you do it. So it's like, no, it's...
Yeah, and then I just kind of scrape it on the sides, make sure none is on the outside, and then I make sure the cork is in there good and tight, and I look at it and I say, I suspect there'll be no shortage of this stuff where we're going, but I feel it may be good to study later. And I carefully secure it in a place on my pack.
And nod approvingly.
Alex, did you just actually hold a dagger out to mime?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I've heard enough roll up and die to not be too surprised by that. But.
Yeah, I was like, I saw that and I was like, not even shocked. I was just like, yep, he's got a dagger just ready to go.
Yeah, I almost pulled my own out to do the same.
I know. Oh, man.
So anyway, yeah. So I've got a bottle of green viscous ooze.
Yeah, you got it, and it kind of pools at the bottom of this empty flask that you have, and just sits there glowing green.
Yeah, I just whip my knife on the like on the heel, the sole of my boot, just kind of scrape off on that, and then put it back. This isn't going to get better. Oh. Is the how high is the pipe up, like off the beach? Is it like something you have to climb into, or is it like right?
It's just a couple feet off the beach. You could step into it just by grabbing onto the lip and kind of pulling yourself up.
Gotcha.
And it's wide enough and tall enough where you don't even really have to stoop. It's a huge outlet pipe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, you ready?
I suppose there's no time like the present. And Philip looks around on the beach and finds a rock, about a fist-sized rock, and pulls out another little chunk of that phosphorus moss and rubs it on it and kind of mutters under his breath and lights the rock up and chucks it into the sewer pipe as far as he can down there, kind of illuminate the way before we head in.
Yeah, you throw the rock, you hear it clattering and echoing against the stone of the pipe, and it illuminates as it goes. You see a shallow channel of water and this green sludge trickling out, and you can see that the pipe goes deep into the hillside.
I hope I don't mind, or you don't mind, Benson, if we let you go first.
Not at all. I pull myself up onto the sewer, feeling a little sort of splack. It's not quite wet enough to splash. It's more like I just. I draw my sword. I have my shield, and as I stand there, sort of facing the interior of this thing, I hold up my sword and I close my eyes and I whisper to it, and as I the sword falls away, you see this little bit of light sort of trickle at the base and then run up the blade, and so it begins to glow faintly with a light spell.
Very nice.
And so I'll have sort of up like this, it'll almost held like a torch as I move in.
And do the three of you follow?
Gabriel's actually going to, as he prepares to hoist himself up into this pipe, he's going to reach into a pocket and pull out just a little piece of cured leather that he kind of rubs between his hands, makes a few gestures, mutters some words, and kind of looks knowingly at Philip and says, "It seemed prudent," as I cast mage armor on myself.
When Benson jumps up there and splats in the stuff, some of it kind of flies back out of the pipe, and of course Philip kind of ducks out of the way. And he looks back in there and he's like, "Benson, I would suggest we not touch that stuff." And then he looks at Gabriel and When Gabriel casts Mage Armor on himself, he nods and he does the same, but he kind of stumbles over the words as he goes to rub the leather, and you see that kind of intangible barrier that would normally pop around Mage when he casts that sort of falter and fizzle for a second, and then he corrects his words a couple of times, then finally it kind of falters into life around him, and he kind of smiles and nods at Gabriel, and then slings himself up into the pipe behind Benson.
And I would kind of climb my way in there too, and this stuff is, I imagine, pretty nasty. I'm wading through it, and I'm muttering to myself, those damned fishmongers in Sandwall are going to owe me an entire wardrobe and new armor. This is ridiculous.
As the 4 brave idiots enter the outlet pipe of the sewers, the light that they're carrying sort of disappears into the darkness, and their voices fade, swallowed up by the stone and the sludge of the sewers, and we are left with only darkness as the session ends for tonight, and we will pick it up next week with the adventurers delving into the sewers.
Sweet.
Very cool.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I could have us continue, but I think it would probably go a little bit too late, so we're going to go ahead, and this seems like a good point to cut it off here, and we can just pick it right back up next week. Yeah. Same time, same place, all that. So
Perfect.
Yeah, that felt very good. I liked the investigative nature, with Sergeant Friday kind of leading the way.
Yeah, no, Alex, you're killing it with the constable, man, having everybody sign. I was loving that. That's so funny.
It's vital to keep good paperwork.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's most of a policeman's job. So
that's
awesome.
Right. Research and paperwork.
Well, that was a lot of fun, guys. I can't wait till the next session and to continue this adventure. I'm going to throw it over to these guys to do their sign-offs, and we'll go ahead and end the broadcast here shortly. So, Jake, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I'm Jake, Mini Terrain Domain. You can find me on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Mini Terrain Domain. And I'll plug this real quick. If you're into health and fitness, I've got another channel that's facebook.com/FatJake2FitJake, where I'm learning and struggling to get myself into better shape. So come check that out. Also, real quick, check the link in the description of this video. Head over for the terrain and adventure giveaway contest. I have made some custom terrain. I've painted some custom miniatures that I'm giving away, along with a digital copy of this adventure, Sewers Under Sandwall, and a Tales from the Sewers t-shirt as a grand prize package, with the adventure and the t-shirt contributed by Absolute Tabletop. And we're also giving away t-shirts and PDFs of the adventure to first and second runner-ups, and that contest runs through just before midnight on Friday. Just simply leave a comment telling what kind of treasure you'd find in the sewer on that video.
Awesome. All right, Carl, go ahead and do your sign-off.
All right. I've been Carl of the channel D20+1, and I've actually got a game coming up on Saturday called On the Horizon that I'm going to be running. We're going to have our session 0. It's going to be a monthly game, and the best elevator pitch I can give for that game is fantasy. If you took D&D and mixed it with Firefly and put it on the open sea. So I'm really excited to play that on Saturday. So hope to see some of you guys there.
That sounds awesome, man. What time is the game?
Awesome.
It's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard.
I will definitely be checking it out. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, man, and I gotta give a big shout out to Absolute Tabletop, because you guys are killing it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Love all of it. So that's all I got to say about that.
Awesome, man. Thank you. All right, Alex, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Alex. On YouTube. You want to check out stuff we publish with Critical Hit Publishing. We're on Drive-Thru RPG. You can also get to a lot of my stuff just through gothnog.com. I have a kind of really basic website set up there, but it leads to the other stuff that I work on as well. So and keep listening to Roll Up and Die. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep listening to Roll Up and Die. We got a good episode coming out on Sunday. I'm pretty excited about it. So, all right, Ben, go ahead and do your sign off, buddy.
Well, I've been Ben, and this has been fun. And I also want to give a shout out to Absolute Tabletop because I love all you guys' stuff. And same thing with Roll Up and Die. Been a tremendous help to myself as a DM. So just want to say thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, man. And thank all of you guys for playing in this game. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to play again. And again, go to absolutetabletop.com if you're interested in picking up this supplement. And yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Can't wait to play again. I'll see everyone next week. Thanks for playing, and thank you for watching. I've been Matt, your sewer master for tonight. Take it easy, everyone.
All right. See you later, guys.
Adieu.
Till next week. It looks like we're still live, and I'm the only one here. So I think we're still live. Matt got kicked, and it hasn't ended the session yet. So yeah, make sure. Let's see. Yep, it's still live. Matt thought it was ended. So I'm solely here. So yeah, go check out miniterraindomain.com. Make sure you check out my videos and check out my contest. I don't really have a way to end the broadcast, so let's see. So yeah, if you want to enter the contest, go leave a comment on the video that's down in the description of this video, telling us what treasure you might find down in there. Matt has said that I have declared martial law and I now control a fistful of dice. So I don't know what to do with this power. So with my own fistful of dice, I'm going to attempt to end this on my own. Barker, I see your comment. It looks like if I leave, then maybe it will go away. So, all right, huge shout out to Matt and Absolute Tabletop. This supplement is awesome so far. I love not knowing what's coming. I haven't read mine yet. And, of course, Absolute Tabletop puts out awesome stuff. I'm not going to hijack this broadcast anymore. I know Matt's nervously watching in the chat, but if you're not subscribed to all of these awesome creators, make sure you are, and purchase and download everything Absolute Tabletop ever makes and buy all of their t-shirts and everything. And hey, I get to end this my way. Mutated!
Is this still live? What in the hell? What? What? Okay, I'm gonna try. What is this? Has never happened to me before.
Is it not letting you in the broadcast?
No, okay, all right. I'm gonna try it again. Hopefully, it won't boot me this time. All right, we're gonna try again, everybody. Everybody, hang on. Hold tight. I love that there's still 15 people here watching this.
If it doesn't work, then I'm still in control.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna try it. Let's hope it doesn't boot me. Here we go. Stopping broadcast in 3, 2,